This is Industry Relations, a podcast at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson. In today's tough real estate market, keeping buyers motivated and loyal is key. Now is the time to leverage the power of One Home by CoreLogic and the best-in-class data and client collaboration experience it brings. Seamlessly integrated into Matrix, One Home delivers unbeatable engagement and one of the highest customer satisfaction scores amongst the top 10 national real estate portals. More impressively, One Home leads the pack by keeping users coming back with the highest repeat visits. With One Home's invite-only access, agents can provide their clients a truly exceptional experience. Don't forget to remind your MLS members to try this great value-added benefit. If your MLS hasn't added One Home yet, please reach out to your CoreLogic rep. Thanks again to CoreLogic for sponsoring the Industry Relations podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. This is your host, the notorious Rob, and as always, my amazing co-host, the fabulous Greg Robertson. Yeah, baby.
Hola, Rob.
Hola. How are you?
All right, man. How are you? Good seeing you this week.
I know. Such a pleasure. It was so good. And that was a cool event, man.
Yeah, it was. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And, I love your little dinner recommendations. We had a great time with
awesome.
some Korean barbecue.
Yep. I would love to talk more about that event, but, as you know, we are awesome shills for our sponsor, CoreLogic, which is right behind you. And we would love to shill for the other company whose event we were at, but, give us a ring. I'm gonna fully embrace this, like
the grifting
and the shilling.
It's not grifting; it's just sponsorships.
It's
I mean, it's just it's a kind of a sullied term to use.
If you sponsor and advertise a media operation like we've got, then you expect something back, and we're trying to deliver value here. In any event. What else is going on? I know you have a special message from a mutual friend of ours.
That's right. Yeah. So this is for exclusive for Industry Relations. Listeners and viewers. Cole Boyer, who's he's one of the co-founders along with Dan and I over at Tuesday, which is a new it's like a social network app for MLSs.
Yeah.
He's going to be launching in North Star MLS. And they're doing a live presentation about, kind of kicking it off. And if anybody out there wants to check that out, it's going to be kind of cool. It's ontuesday.com/live where they can sign up to get a URL for that. And it's on March 25th, right? So I think that's a Tuesday, actually, right? So it's all on brand.
Clever.
But check that out, and I'll put that in the show notes as well. But just a little inside thing for just our industry relations viewers and listeners.
But Greg, in the spirit of grifting and shilling, is Tuesday a sponsor?
I think they're gonna shake up to be one day.
I was gonna say, I mean, if they're not a sponsor, I would urge you not to go to this live event, by that Greg mentioned, which is on what March 25th at what
March 25th at ontuesday.com/live. Yeah.
Right. At what time is that live demo?
Oh gosh, good question. I think it's at 10 a.m. No, 9 a.m. Pacific.
9 a.m. Pacific time. I think our listeners should not be attending this event until first Tuesday starts coughing up some dollars, for industry relations. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
It's a bootstrapped company, Rob. We can show a little bit of love to some of our up and comers, right?
I'm just saying, they could at least send us some swag or something, show some love.
Swag, we'll get some swag out
for all this love that we're showing up. Oh my lord! Well, in any event, in terms of grifting, I think we wanted to talk a little bit about this bizarre message from Mr. Michael Ketchmark, who, I've never met the man. I've seen him only on interviews and such. And quite frankly, I have a lot of respect for him, given that anybody who, owns a yacht, as a result of suing realtors, you got to say, must have some skill, right? I don't know if it's a yacht that he owns or a private plane, but he owns one or the other. We know that. But this latest thing was just a little bizarre, and I've already like did a little video on it over on Notorious Pod. But I wanted to get your take on it. Like, what you think?
Yeah, it's like how he became the biggest shill for CCP is like beyond me. And then it's like
against
CCP. And then the other thing is like just these, is he going to put people under tribunals, of interviews and depositions without any sort of, case against anybody? It's just a very odd threat, right?
Yeah.
That he coming from that. I don't know. It's just. Did they get him on an off day? Did he have like a few drinks when Inman talked to him? I mean, we'll put a link into the show notes as far as what the article we're talking about. But he just made some outrageous claims there.
I think they're better off putting links to my reaction to that.
Yeah, I know. I watched that this morning.
But no, look. The only thing I guess the point I was making was number one that like this notion that lawyers just have a right to depose people, like that's not a thing. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he might be referring to something called Rule 27, which is a very specific Rule 27 of federal civil procedures. It's a very specific thing, and the idea is you can depose somebody even before trial, even before you sue them, if you want to preserve evidence. All right. So maybe the idea is something like, we know that something bad has been done, but the guy that we need, as a witness to testify for evidence is on his deathbed.
That's pretty specific.
Or like something's got to be lost. Like it's a very specific. Like you need to go petition the court. Say, listen, I know we haven't filed a lawsuit yet, but we're planning on it, and we need to depose this guy for whatever reason, right? To preserve this evidence. Maybe he's flying out of the country. Who knows, right? There's some specific reason why we need to do this, but trust us, Judge, we are going to file a lawsuit, at some point. The thing about that, though, is you need a client. Right? Like, as a lawyer, one of the specific rules is the lawyer cannot be a party. Like, you have to be a party in this upcoming lawsuit, right? So this is the kind of thing where a lawyer could just go depose somebody and then go look for a client. Do you know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, man, dude, like, could you imagine all the class action lawyers that would be deposing, pharma company executives all the time or big chemical companies, right? Like, let's just depose them. See what we could dig up. Like, that's just not a thing,
Yeah, what I'm curious about is, so I guess this is in part because there's some rumor out there, and I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, or if it's a rumor, or if it's something published on NAR's website, that they're very, very close for reaching a decision on CCP. They're going to, I don't know how they do that, a vote. I mean, they get all the 9,700 directors together and they vote or whatever it is, right? And that the rumors, there's also other rumors out there that, and we'll get into some more rumors later on here with Compass and BHHS.
Oh yeah.
But there's rumors here that it might come down where NAR says it's optional per MLS, to implement this rule, right?
That's the rumor.
The rumor, right?
That's
that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I think that tracks a little bit because, as we've seen with the Rex versus Zillow versus NAR case, that was Rex was defeated soundly because they went after NAR and, basically the justification for this was that it was an optional rule for commingling, and therefore,
that's right.
Because they didn't go to each individual MLS, but to NAR, that they didn't make their case, they lost their case, right? So this optionality thing seems to be like, okay, well, we've cracked the code, right? We'll just make everything freaking optional, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, does that track? I mean, to you,
I think it tracks. I'm surprised. I think it's a real misunderstanding of the decision of the Ninth Circuit, and I'm surprised that NAR lawyers haven't already pointed this out because, I mean, they're better lawyers than I am. You know what I mean? Like, those guys charge like $2,000 an hour. Like, I charge $0 an hour. Like, I don't practice law. But here's what I mean. Like, it's not that simply because a rule is marked optional, therefore there's no liability. I think that's a real misinterpretation. The issue is that Rex only sued NAR and Zillow, right? They did not sue any of the MLSs or local associations. So when the NAR rule is optional, that's how they got out of it. So in something like clear cooperation, okay, fine, you make it optional, right? Some local MLS says, okay, well, we're optionally going to adopt CCP. That local MLS could still be sued. You know what I mean? So it's something to think about then sure. As an MLS. Like, and they're not making that clear. It's almost like saying, we're going to make it optional, and whatever you guys do, you'll be fine. Like, that's not how this is going to play out, right? I don't think. Again, maybe I'm wrong, right? But
no, but it does get NAR out of kind of anything.
That's right.
It's like, hey,
that's right.
You make the call,
that's
not
right.
us.
That's right.
Right, and then
that's right.
If you want to like fight this fight, go ahead and fight this fight. But this ain't our fight anymore, right?
Kinda. Again, like I don't. Maybe we'll have to have a whole episode about
but
the Department of Justice and their.
Yeah, but
theory,
doesn't that also
right?
kind of again, any differentiation between MLSs now brings up more of a competition vibe, right? Right. So hold on. Let's say you have two MLSs close to each other, right?
Okay.
Maybe they're also doing a data share or whatever, but one of them is going to say, well, we're keeping CCP, and one is not.
Right.
Again, that differentiation, could be a bullet point that leans in the favor of like, okay, just to pick one out because they're the most proponent of this, is like all compass agents are going to leave, MLSX and join MLSY because of that
sure.
clear, because of that, right? So, I mean, that's... In a weird way, it increases competition, having these kind of optional rules there, doesn't it?
I mean, I guess you could make whatever arguments, right? I'm not convinced by that personally, because so let's just take an example, right? Park City, Utah versus Salt Lake. They're close, right? They're neighboring.
Yeah.
And we know, at least like when I first got into the business, I don't know, 2004, whatever, like there was talk then about they should merge. Do you know what I mean? Because for all intents and purposes, it's kind of it's the same market, naturally speaking.
Unless you ask any realtor in each area or in Park
no,
City.
If you ask realtors in Park City, they will claim it's not. But it's a unique thing about resort markets specifically. They always want to like protect and defend their little turf.
Well, it's not just resort markets, but yeah, I get your point.
But but resort markets have this like particularly strong, but they can't get that done, right? And so if like Park City says we're going to do CCP, Salt Lake says we're not, compass agents in Park City, they go, okay, fine, we're going to join Salt Lake, except they can't, right? Because not like Salt Lake doesn't have any, do you know what I mean? Like they don't have the data. They don't have the underlying stuff that.
What if there's a rev share, or not a rev share, but a data share?
A data share, it depends on what the data share terms are, right? Most of the data share terms do not allow that. I mean, the whole point of data share, see, this is something that I think people are missing. The whole point of data share is to prevent your people from leaving and joining another MLS.
Right.
Right. The whole point is that you stay here and then you can access theirs. But if you leave us, then you lose. Like that's the whole point behind data share, which is why all these MLS are so.
Yeah, but I mean, they could, again, make this a weapon in a way, right? Where
possibly.
But again.
Possibly, Greg.
It's a weird alliance to say, I'm going to get away with his rules so that people don't have to use the MLS as much to help me grow my MLS.
I mean, I'm granted.
Right? I mean, that's a little bit. It is a little bit.
But for me, when I heard that, again, this is all rumor, so that might not be what NAR decides, right? So it's all strictly rumor. But my feeling on it is, let's say that's the direction they go. They say, oh, hey, we're just going to be optional, right? And the whole clear idea, messaging behind it is, so if anyone gets sued, we're going to be in the clear. Now it's on you. Okay. What I want to know is, what exactly is the incentive at that point to do anything NAR wants? Why even be affiliated? right? So when I put on Twitter, I think I put it as it's NAR's race to irrelevance, right? Which seems right to me. They're going to be made irrelevant in any event. It's just they're accelerating the process. Because if that's rules optional, what rule's not optional? And whatever rule that's not optional, if I'm an MLS, why do I care? Do you know what I mean? Because this whole play is, hey, we know the Department of Justice is coming. We know like lawyers are going to be coming. So we're going to protect ourselves, call this optional. But if you adopt it, you might get sued, Mr. MLS.
Well, there's nothing stopping the MLSs getting sued right now, though, right? I mean, so it's not like a.
Well, the thing is,
as you said, Rex could have sued individual MLSs,
they
right?
Could've.
So,
but I do think MLS
it's not
today,
like there's a.
But MLS today have at least a defense that you don't have a choice. The MLS today, right? They have a bit of a defense that we don't have a choice. This is a mandatory rule, right? We have to follow it. When you make it optional, now you chose to adopt it, so now you're on the hook. Again, who knows how that's all going to play out? I'm just saying the politics behind this, the messaging behind this, is essentially, hey, MLS, you're on your own. Here's our optional rule, right? At a point, I'm like, it's a funny thing about optional rules, right? What is an optional rule? Right?
It's a rule you can either follow or not.
I know, but what is that? If you think about it, it's a suggestion. Right?
Sure.
In other words, imagine there's no speed limit.
It's a best practice, right? I mean,
or something.
Some corporate.
Imagine there's no
parlance.
speed limit on the road, right? You go to the highway, it says there's no speed limit. It says optional speed limit 55 miles per hour. I'd drive 120. I'd be like, it's optional.
Suggested speed limit.
Right? It's a suggestion, right? With no enforcement. Okay. So if we think of it that way, I kind of go, if I'm in MLS, I say, okay, this is optional. Non-commingling is optional. What's not optional? Right? And then I think about it, why isn't it optional? But what are they going to do to me? Right? Why do I care? So taking that to the competitive situation.
Well, I mean, I think for NAR is that if they have rules, the famous thing, and again, I still don't even know if this is actually, still in fact, but if you want to be part of an umbrella or insurance policy, and if you want, I'm sure they have a list of things that says, okay, if you follow our rules, you get this.
Sure.
Right? So then every MLS has to make, and every MLS has to make a decision of whether or not, okay, well, we think that having this is better than not following, right? So there's things that they have. I don't know. I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head, though.
Yeah, but we know that the main thing that they have is this liability coverage, right? And
yeah, I get. I mean, I couldn't say that with like a lot of certainty. I'm not.
No, that's the main
MLS.
That is the main and only concrete benefit that an MLS would get by being a realtor MLS. There are some, I'll call it soft benefits, right? And this is actually how NAR controls the MLS, right? Because the MLS is owned and controlled by the local realtor associations. Those local realtor associations are controlled by the boards of directors and those realtor junkie activists, right, who are like really involved. And what NAR will do things like the president of your local is going to lose the committee assignment that he really wants because he wants to be regional vice president one day, right? Like, so we're going to punish your local's leadership because you are not complying, which then forces the local leaders to be like, hey, man, why are you messing with my stuff, right?
Right.
And if you keep doing that, I'm going to fire you, Mr. MLS CEO. Like, that's how they actually do the control. But the concrete benefit is the insurance. And just this week, we Callaway Conversation, CEO of a, not a super large MLS, was like, we can get our own liability insurance. It's no big deal. So they're all.
That might be the case for smaller MLSs, but maybe not larger ones.
I'm just saying, like, it's no longer this cudgel that NAR has.
Right.
I don't think insurance coverage is what's preventing MLS from leaving. I think what's preventing MLS from leaving is that they're controlled by realtor associations. But practically what that means, they're controlled by certain individuals who are like realtor junkies who've been active, who've been involved in the thing. They have a certain level of loyalty, and some of them have ambitions, right? Like, hey, one day I'm going to be president. One day I want to be first vice president, right? And you and I both know there are real benefits, like concrete benefits, if you rise in the ranks of the NAR hierarchy in terms of like what hotels you get put at conferences, what kind of travel benefits you get, what kind of events you get invited to, like we know. And then, of course, when you reach the ultimate top, then you're making like $400,000 a year, while traveling the country, being treated like a celebrity. Like, I get it. That's how it's done. But to bring this back, okay, if they make this optional, I think the natural question that raised my mind is, okay, well, why isn't everything optional? Because let's put it this way. For the subscriber, it ain't got to be optional. Right? If Compass said, hey, I know you said clear cooperation policy is you chose to enforce that. You chose to adopt it. Right? But that's your rule. So you know what? We're going to treat that as optional. We, Compass, as a participant, are looking at your MLS rules and policies like, yeah, it's optional. We're just not going to do it. Then the MLS like, oh, no, we're going to fine you. We're going to kick you out. We're going to do all kinds of shit on you, right? Like, so you either have rules or you don't. Optional rules are suggestions.
Yeah, and again, maybe it's just part of an overall strategy to deflect liability from
that's exactly
the mothership, right?
Of course, that's exactly what it is.
So
which is cool.
Make them all optional.
Make it all optional, right? 3 agreement optional. Like,
yeah. Well, were you surprised that? I mean, again, it's still rumor, but I mean, it seems to be like, when NAR annual, right? No, they didn't vote on it or whatever. So
yeah.
I think everybody's kind of thought was, okay, well, they're going to kick the can down the road until mid-year.
Yeah.
So having somebody say out there, again, a rumor that this might be settled or voted upon by the end of March, this first quarter here, I was like, damn. I mean, that's not, your typical NAR move, right? And we'll see if it happens, but do you think that's a symbol or a sign of anything?
No,
I'm coming after this after listening to, Sherry Chris has been on DeWiggins and Robinson's podcast, Real Estate Insiders, right?
That's right, yeah.
And Sherry went on a second time because, they had some announcements to make. And, she has been acting as a special advisor there and getting a firsthand look at, Nikia and how they're operating. And she's got nothing but good things to say about, some of the decisiveness that Nikia is demonstrating and things. And
would you have expected anything else?
Well, I mean, I don't see, I respect Sherry Chris. I don't see her as a bootlicker or anything like that. I think she's I think it was a smart move to bring her on there, especially when you talk about the $2 billion club, which I know that she's been reacting with. And I think, Nikia was at, I think she spoke at Inman. She's been out there a bit more, right? So I'm willing to give, a benefit of a doubt like that, if what Sherry's saying and some others. But this to me felt like, them moving a bit faster and more decisively than just, again, if it's true. We don't know if it's true or not.
We
right?
don't know. We have no
to see
idea.
What's happening. I see the skepticism in your face here, but
that's a different skepticism. My understanding, though, is when they kick the can down the road, right? A true.
Well, there's also they got brand new legal counsel. They fired a bunch of people. I mean, sure. It's a lot going on here, right?
Sure, but they kicked the can down the road, right? My understanding is procedurally that got kicked back down to Emerging Issues Committee.
Okay.
So I believe what's coming is a vote from that committee, which then gets kicked up to the MLS Policy Committee, right? And then after that, it will go to probably leadership team or executive committee, and then vote by the board of directors, right? Which is essentially a rubber stamp because, there are like 900 individuals who have no idea that they're violating fiduciary duty right now because they're NAR directors, but they don't do shit. But that's a whole separate conversation.
Okay. We'll just leave that there.
We'll just leave that there. So I think what's coming is probably a decision by the Emerging Issues Committee. That's my understanding, procedurally speaking. And then I think MLS Policy Committee will take it up in May at mid-year, right? And then from there, it'll go to the board of directors in November, right? Do they have that kind of time? We'll see. We'll see. I mean, is that moving fast? Maybe, I guess.
Well, God, if you got to go through 3 committees, gee, Jimmy Christmas. I mean, that's
crazy. That's the realtor way, right?
Yeah. Okay, so what about moving on here to Redfin-Rocket?
That's right. We didn't talk about that, huh?
No, I think it was after our I know we talked about KW and
That's right.
And Stone Point, right? But
yeah.
So again, my take again is that this could be viewed as optimistic because it's another big money, right? Looking at buying a brokerage. In this case, it's really a hybrid. It's a portal / brokerage. For the belief that real estate is going to pretty much be practiced the way it has been, right? I don't think you buy that, maybe with a slight twist, right? I mean, there are some people that say that there's going to be a little bit of change there, but I mean, it's all where everything's going. They just, to me, it's like, I think my take was like holy attachment rate Batman, right? So,
right.
And I actually have a graphic. Huh?
Ooh.
What?
Ooh.
Greg Robertson has a graphic. Let me see if I can
Sharing.
share my screen here. And this is from their earnings call, or a call they had.
Yeah.
Talking about this.
If you could find the tab.
If I could find the tab.
Well, while you're looking at the tab, I think I wrote something on this already. Whoa. You don't know how to share, apparently.
Is that better?
That's better, but yeah. Hopefully we didn't get a glimpse of some, super confidential, memorandum from, somewhere. Yeah. Okay. Current state of home buying, title premium, listing agent fee, buyer agent fee, mortgage gain on sale, total client cost, future, just Rocket at half the cost. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of the whole thing. It's like if you use Rocket, we'll pay for your agent, right? I mean that's not such a I mean, that's kind of what everybody's trying to do, right? They've been buying mortgage companies, whatever, so they can kind of get all that thing there. Not necessarily treating it as a thing where you get the agent services free, but it's all rolled into one, right?
Sure.
I mean, this, I think, is a kind of a threat to Zillow, right? I mean,
for sure. For certain.
And some other kind of models out there.
For certain. So the thing I'll point... Oh, go ahead.
What it is to me also, it's like... we had been talking a lot about homes.com, right? And Realtor has been kind of just still out there a little bit, but these is some moving and shaking going on here, right? As far as for these other players here, especially this move with Rocket and Redfin. I wonder what that means for the strategy of homes.com and others. I mean, and the and Realtor really.
Sure.
And how this works out.
Sure. So let's talk about it. And by the way, I just recorded an episode with Dwiggins where we went into this a little bit, and I haven't released it yet. It'll come out maybe around the time this episode comes out. So first of all, I think my initial take was this was a great move by Rocket, and it's one that I predicted 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, 2 years too late, but hey. But when I made that prediction, I did it because Zillow made a pivot, because Zillow's been on this, the one app for a real long time, the super app.
Yeah, the super app.
Yeah. And there was an earnings call when Zillow came out and essentially said, we're pivoting the way we do mortgage. Right. What they used to do was they get whatever, and then they would sell the mortgage lead to different lenders.
Right.
What they said is, we're not doing that. We're going to funnel it to Zillow Home Loans, right? Which they bought when they were trying to do the iBuyer thing. And they said, okay, let's make more money out of this. Perfect sound strategy, not blaming anybody. But when that happened, I said, okay, the mortgage guys are some of the biggest companies in the country. And the largest one.
All the money's in the mortgage, yeah.
Right. The largest one at the time was Rocket. And I believe United Wholesale, they were 1 and 2, right? And Rocket was the largest that went direct to consumer. And that's how they became such a huge, they went direct to consumer, whereas everybody else was using mortgage brokers, whatever, right? Industry channel. And I thought, okay, if I'm Rocket and Zillow pulls this, the obvious move is to buy a portal. But which portal? Redfin makes the most sense, right? And that happened. And I think what I thought then still holds true, and this is something that James and I talked about a little bit. What people are not focusing on enough, I think, whether that's Wall Street or industry brokers and agents, is that Redfin has W-2 agents, which means that Respa does not apply. And this is not something that anybody else can do. So Zillow,
don't they have a hybrid? Don't they have W-2 agents and they do some partner program with
right? So they would not areas, right? So they would not be able to do this with the partner agents. They can only do this with W-2 agents, right? Because there's an exemption in Respa that employees, like specifically salaried employees, are allowed to promote, like pitch mortgage. Otherwise, there's some real strict restrictions under Respa, right? As to what you can and cannot do. You can't get referral fees. You can't, right? You can't get things of value, all that kind of stuff. What it means is that slide that you showed is possible for Rocket Redfin, where you say, listen, get a mortgage through us, and all your brokerage fees are free. Okay, because Rocket obviously would then pay the Redfin agents, or they're already paid a salary. Maybe they get a bonus or something, whatever. I mean, that I don't know the details of Respa, but they would figure that out. That is entirely possible. I don't think that's possible if you're Zillow doing it with premier agents, because those premier agents don't work for you. Right. So now if you do something for them, now it looks like a Respa violation, right? So I think...
it's interesting because, I always think of things in terms of marketing, right? And what is the clear marketing value proposition you're making? Mm-hmm. And if I'm hearing it correctly, I can have a billboard that says, buy a home through us and we'll pay your agent fees. That's very succinct, and I can grok that.
Right.
Zillow,
the other way,
if you don't have the other way, is a very convoluted, that's a very clear message. The other one, I don't know how you kind of it's easier if you use a Zillow mortgage with our, blah, blah. We'll give you a discount. I mean, what is the best they could say? You get a discount on the mortgage, or you get what can they say with Respa things there, right?
And I'm not a Respa expert, but I know there are some real heavy restrictions, right? But it could also go the other way, right? Which is, I'm a Redfin agent, right? I get an inquiry through the website. I'm talking to this buyer. Hey, so you're interested in 123 Main Street, right? It's like, hey, hire me to represent you in your purchase, right? And the buyer's like, well, why would I? It's like, if you use me, we can knock 50 basis points, like 0.5% off your mortgage. Dude, 0.5% in a mortgage is pretty that's significant. Like if you go shop rates, like one of those mortgage shopping rates, we're talking like difference of like 6.95 versus 6.91, 6.90. Like, so if you could either pay 6.9 using Coldwell Banker, or you could use me and you'll get 6.5 or 6. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the kind of rate buy downs that builders were able to do the last couple of years.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So last year, remember when like the market is fucking dead, right? Real estate agents and brokers I got nothing in pipeline. Builders are out there selling like crazy. Why? Because they're like, we're gonna do a rate buy down, right? We're gonna offer you a 3% rate if you buy one of our homes. They can do that because it's their home, right? It's an employee. It's an incentive to the buyer. I'm saying Redfin can do the same thing. So imagine it's like, buy with a Redfin, 3% mortgage. Dude. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean...
Zillow cannot do that. They can't do it. Nor can Realtor, nor can anybody else that I'm aware of. As far as I know, again, you Respa experts chime in. That's a pretty big deal. So I look at this now and go, okay, a couple of things have happened. The big shift here, and we need to do, maybe this is the show, because I was thinking we need to do a show on the portals. We haven't really talked about those guys in a bit. I think the new Rocketfin is potentially a very, very serious competitor to Zillow. Right? Granted, they don't have the traffic Zillow has. They don't have the market like Zillow has the whole country. I think Redfin's still in like 40 markets maybe. Right? They don't have they're not there yet in terms of traffic, but now they can offer something unique that Zillow simply cannot. Cannot. Period. End of story. Right? Unless Zillow goes and buys a brokerage. And that brokerage is W-2 agents, which I can't think of another brokerage that does. Right? That's
or
of any
they
size.
they are a broker now and licensed.
So they just hire
start
W-2
hiring,
agents. Correct.
They won't call them agents.
Correct.
They call them transaction coordinators or whatever. And, go for it, right?
Yeah, but then, so think about that. They already have a whole bunch of, they have a call center, right? So, you'd say, hey, I want to talk to an agent about this house. It goes through a Zillow thing, right? Okay, cool. If you intercept the lead at that point and say, hey, if you buy with us, we'll give you 3% mortgage. That means that lead cannot be then sent on to to a premier agent.
It's completely a brand new monetization strategy.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. So now you then are replacing. Right. Then you have to replace your premier agent revenue with this new thing, whatever this new thing is. That's not a 6-month project. I don't even know if it's a 1-year project. That could be a 5 to 10-year project, right?
Yeah.
At massive cost, by the way. So I don't think this. So practically speaking, Zillow can't do this. Homes can't do this. Right? No one can, and that's what makes it so mind blowing, right?
Yeah, I mean, think about that in so Zillow sells. Their monetization strategy obviously is selling buyers leads to premier agents, right?
That's right.
And it's either through a per lead or some sort of referral fee, right? That's number one. Number two is they also try to kind of, there's been things like if you're using this, you're encouraged to use a Zillow home loan.
Right.
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 So they have, they've been trying to get their attachment rate going up and really making that more seamless by this mythical super app that they've been creating that is going to handle everything, right?
Well, part of it though is Zillow has been pretty good, and what they've been doing, they've been incentivizing the premier agent.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, if your Zillow home loan referral rate is high, then and I'm sure they're figuring out how to be Respa compliant, right? Yeah. While giving something of value to that agent, right?
Right.
But there's no incentive to the buyer, to the consumer. And that's what I'm getting at. I think people are missing out the fact that Rockfin or, I don't know, whatever, right?
Red Rocket, I called it.
Right. Red Rocket. What I'm saying is that company can actually go buy with Redfin, get 3% mortgage. I don't know who can do that. Right. So this is
that I get that. What I'm saying is
so this is my point. Once you have that as the key feature, and Rocket does advertising like crazy. So they run a Super Bowl ad. Buy with Redfin, get 3% mortgage. Their traffic is going to go through the fucking roof. Right? So now if Zillow's up here and Redfin's down here and that gets here, that's a different animal. Right? Which then brings us to a discussion of homes.
Right.
And I've long said, look, man, there are very few things in life I don't want to do. Going against Andy Florence is one of them. He's got to do something. He's invested how many billions of dollars into homes, into, getting to residential real estate. And this whole time he's thinking, I need to compete against Zillow. Right. Zillow's my main target. Yeah. Right. So
if imagine, I don't know what they're predicting as far as if I missed that part of the call or any articles on what they predicting the revenue could be because of this partnership. Right. But it's got to be pale in comparison to upgrading people to high quality photos and drone footage and,
what do you mean?
And Matterport. Because that's the way they monetize, right? They don't monetize off. Homes doesn't monetize off selling leads to their.
Oh, right.
Right. They monetize by these kind of services they provide agents to advertise their listings, right?
Sure.
So that seems like chump change to me when you're talking about the pool of mortgage money that's in this, right? Sure. So, yeah, they might be playing this. The game has changed. It might change here enough where it's well, everybody, what was so the Zillow versus Homes equation was this, right? Andy's saying it's your listing, your lead. Okay, so they're basically trying to like put a chink in the armor there, or get inside the chink of that armor, saying
Right.
your agents, your listings are not going to be bastardized, right?
That's right.
So come to homes.com.
That's
and
right.
then when you're here, we're going to make, you can sign up to be a subscriber, and
That's right.
anything you put on there, we're going to make look great.
right.
And we've got all this other content we're surrounding it by, blah, 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 right? Zillow's counter move to that is they launched their, their Showcase Plus or whatever they call it, right? Their different things where they kind of do those kind of things. They've got making some money on that.
They're trying to match homes in terms of
but still they're not going to abandon their model.
No.
Now, and then Realtor is kind of somewhere in between, where they have some tool sets for listing agents, and they have, they sell leads as well. They've got their Op City thing that they're doing with the referral stuff. So they're kind of all over the place there, right? And they've got the Realtor brand. I mean, to me, this Rocket Redfin thing just changes the game entirely, where it's like
100%.
all that stuff is kind of chump change, right?
100%.
If I'm a consumer, they don't care about the palace intrigue of like, and I saw Homes.com's latest commercial is they pointed at a billboard and say, that's, we'll send you to the listing agent, not some rando agent. So they're highlighting that, right?
Yeah.
But okay, I don't care what agent I have. They're already covered by, if I go to this site and buy shit, then I'm not paying for whoever it is. I mean, it's in the best interest of Rocket to get the deal done, because that's how they make money. So, I think there's a stronger value proposition there and a clearer one than the rest of them.
There's no doubt. And like I said, the big shift here, big change is Zillow, Homes, Realtor, their pitch to consumers is convenience. Right? Like the one-stop shop at Zillow is the one app. You have the same app. You can look for a house, find an agent, get a mortgage. It's
right.
Convenience. Rockfin's pitch is money.
Right.
And I'm sorry, money beats convenience like 9 times out of 10, unless the money is like this big and convenience is huge, right? Like, you're telling me I'm going to save $40,000 over the life of my loan? Bruh. And this is where things starts to get even more, the second order impact. Okay, this is going to, so Zillow and Homes, here's what I do believe. I think the guys at Zillow are effing smart. People at CoStar and Homes, effing smart. I'm sure they'll come up with some strategy for dealing with this. And I'm real curious.
Yeah, they had to whiteboard this. They had to game theory this thing out before.
One hopes. One would hope. Because if some random blogger can predict this 2 years ago, one would hope that they highly paid people could have figured this out. If not, give me a ring. Okay. But what the second order impact is this. Okay, now you're a super team at Keller Williams. Okay. You get a call on one of your listings, right? Hey, the 123 Main Street, this is like a beautiful house. I'd like to see it. Are you working with an agent? No, not really. I haven't. I'm just early on. Well, would you like me to set you up, blah, blah, blah. And the buyer goes, can you give me 3% mortgage?
Right.
My man, the whole world could potentially shift dramatically.
Right.
My man. Right. And of course the agent's answer me, no, of course I'm not a mortgage, I have this wonderful mortgage banker guy, but I'll hook you up with him. It's like, yeah, but Redfin can get me 3% mortgage. It's over. It's effing over.
I don't know if they advertise it that way. I think the slide that I showed, what they're basically saying is, that those one-time fees are rolled into, or cut in half, basically, right?
Yeah,
they're not.
It is. Right.
Yeah, they're not saying it's going to be a 3% mortgage or a buy down. They're just saying.
Yeah, I don't know, right? I'm just. Yeah. I brought the 3% up only because I know it's what builders are doing, right? And my take on it is, at the end of the day, man, there's a pool of money. Somebody has to get paid. Everybody has to get paid somehow, okay? And if builders are able to do it because they're saying, okay, fine, we're going to lose $20,000 on the mortgage, we're selling this home where we make $40,000 in profit, so we're cool, kind of offsetting that. I'm saying Rockfin will do the same thing. Look, we don't care whether we offer 3% mortgage or free real estate. Right? At the end of the day, we're looking to make $20,000, right, in profit somehow. So here's how we're going to do it. again, those guys are smart to figure out.
Yeah, they're gonna test what messaging works out and which
Correct.
ones they can say correctly without any violations.
And maybe it'll be both. It's like, would you rather have 3% mortgage or would you rather have free real estate service? Like, if I'm a seller,
it's yet another freedom plan, Rob.
Yet another freedom plan, right? But dude, that has this repercussion down the line. Now, of course, it's not going to be this year. It's not going to be next year, right? But brokers and agents have now got to figure out, all right, how do I compete against Redfin agent who could either say, buy with me, I'm free, 0% if you get mortgage through Rocket, or buy with me and I could get you 3% rates.
Right.
It's a seismic change, and I don't think we've grasped that just yet. So, so hopefully after this episode, what we're recording right now should go viral. Every one of our people should be sharing with everybody they know who's not a consumer, and then start figuring out, how do we deal with that? How do we do that? And the answer is fairly simple. Here are the answers. Ready? Here's how you deal with it. 1, get Respa repealed.
Okay, that sounds a very Trumpian thing to do.
And I think given the administration now, I wouldn't rule that out, right? That's 1. 2, all of your agents have to go on W-2. And then you got to sell yourself to some sort of a mortgage lender. It can't be a bank, right? But it can be a credit union. But step 1 is all of your agents have to be W-2. And then it can't be a partnership, right? Like we're going to partner, the JVs, right? That's very popular right now. That ain't going to cut it. It has to be salaried employees owned. So you have to be owned by a bank or a lender. I can't think of a single brokerage in the country right now who's ready to make that transition.
Well, no, and I mean, if you're talking about number 1 is,
which I've been preaching for 5 years now. I think firms should go W-2, but that's the impact that we haven't yet woken up to. Yeah. But hopefully they will after this episode.
Okay, so I got a hard stop, so we got 5 minutes left. Let's just talk about this other thing, and it might be all dispelled already, but Inman News reported via the Wall Street Journal reported that Compass was acquiring BHHS, and the deal was just almost done. And then it was reported by the Wall Street Journal by what's her name, Deborah, maybe
Deborah Kamen, maybe
or was it Nicole?
Times,
Nicole Freeman.
Nicole is Wall Street Journal, yeah.
Yeah. So Nicole.
Yeah. She's really smart. I like Nicole.
So Wall Street Journal, you figure everything's hunky dory. So it gets picked up by everybody, including Vendor Alley and other, Notorious Rob.
No, I didn't pick that up because I was like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Inman picked it up. Yep. Real Estate News picked it up. RS Media picked it up. Everybody picked it up after the Wall Street Journal, and then. What came out is that Gino, the chairman and CEO of BHHS, put out something very, very strongly denying. So he said, many of you are aware that articles published in the Wall Street Journal and elsewhere today stating that Home Service America was in talks to be sold to Compass. I want to confirm to you that there are no discussions, negotiations, or agreements to sell Home Services or any of its affiliated companies. And that includes the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices franchise business. Mm-hmm. Moreover, no such, and this is underlined, moreover, no such sale is being contemplated. It goes on with a little bit. But, I mean, how does the Wall Street Journal get this wrong?
It's an excellent question. And I've had some phone calls and discussions with certain industry leaders, shall we say.
This is why people come to the Industry Relations Podcast.
And since we have a hard stop, maybe we'll have to pick this up, later.
Well, give us the retracted version.
I think one of two things is happening here, right? And maybe one of three things. One, somebody's going to jail, right? Because the SEC, these are two public companies, right? Compass, a public company. Home Services through Berkshire Hathaway public company. If somebody's out there falsely, right, like telling lies about an acquisition that has impact on stock price of either company, that's a pretty serious SEC violation. There might be subpoenas and criminal charges brought. That's one possibility.
They picked the wrong week to leak this kind of news.
Right.
There wasn't going to be any rumor that was going to make this market go anywhere but down.
Second possibility is that there is a conversation happening and Gino's not in the loop.
Yeah.
That's the second possibility. In other words, Home Services is owned by Mid-America Energy, which is owned by Berkshire Hathaway. It isn't as if Gino talks to, Warren Buffett on the daily.
You got to believe, though, he's not going to put something like that out, that definitive, without talking to his boss.
Possibly. I don't know.
I mean, he's a public company.
I know.
Yeah.
So so that's why it's a mystery. One of two things, right? What seems potentially possible to me is maybe conversations are had at the Warren Buffett level, right? Just saying, listen, with real estate, it's really shitty. You paid out a lot of money. Do you want to dump this like toxic asset? And maybe Warren's like, let me think about it, right? No deal, right? No negotiation. Let me think about it. If we were to do something like that, how much would you pay? Kind of. Maybe it was left at that level, and that somehow leaked out, right?
Right.
And I happen to have heard that the people in question are like senior executives in Compass. Have then started, like I said, if that's true, there's potentially an SEC investigation coming.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Or Gino's going to get called into, his boss's office in the next week or two. It's like, so remember when we had you send that letter out? We had to do that because it was part of our negotiations ploy. But in fact, we are selling,
Yeah, that would
that
be
is
a bummer.
possible.
Yeah.
Right. That is possible.
Well, I would say, as we wrap up here, I kind of, in the last podcast and this, talked about how I thought that these big money guys buying, real estate brokerages and this, Redfin and was a good positive sign. It's like things are going to stay the same. Right. I have to say, and I wrote this in Vendor Alley, if this is true, if Warren Buffett wants out of real estate, it hits a little different. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. If you're Warren Buffett, why would you want to stay in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, again, why are these companies paying so much money for these other entities, right? So, I mean, there's something amiss here. I don't know. All right, well, we have to get going.
So thank you, everyone, for listening, for your attention. And, I appreciate y'all. If you have any thoughts, questions, put it in the comments, at least in the YouTube video. Obviously, if you're just listening to us audio, you can't. But you know how to reach us, so reach out. Thanks, Greg, and thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Ciao.